Good day to all you devils. Sam here with you on a Friday. What are we, July 13th? And we're kind of mid-morning here, trying to get an early start on this today because I had mentioned to you all in the last video that I had something we were putting together as kind of a thank you and something we'd like to pass along as a bit of a surprise for you, something we hope you'll appreciate. So we are running a contest, and we are just doing this kind of as a thank you for all the support, getting us past 30,000 followers between our YouTube and Twitter. And so as a way of saying thank you for all of that support, we're going to do a bit of a contest and do a giveaway here. So first placed will be 2 months free at Trade Devils University. That's our monthly subscription. That's a $400 value. Second place is 1 month for free. It's $200 value. And third place is 2 weeks. That's $100 value. So to enter, it's easy. All you have to do is click this link, which is right below the video. And it's simple. You don't have to do anything other than enter. But if you would really like to win, you can get additional entries by sharing or joining our public Discord, liking, retweeting. Those are the kind of things that will trigger additional entry. So it's randomly selected for the entry. So the more times you tweet or retweet or like or share or jump on our public Discord, the more entries you'll receive, and that'll increase your odds of winning. So just something to keep in mind. Again, kind of a thank you to all of you for our support, and good luck. All right, with that said, I will get into our video today. So, of course, being Friday, it's a Bitcoin Friday. And since we've had some price action here, this seems like a good time to do it. Now, so what I have here is this. So here's the 60-minute on Bitfinex. Now, this would be the bullish count, right? Now, this is not the only way to count it, I would tell you, but this is my primary count, what I'm working from. This would be the bullish view of it. Now, a couple of things to point out here as we dig into this. So it's very spiky action. So look at these long bars and these they're almost like pump moves. And then look at the corresponding volume that we get on each one of these. So if I did it, so I've got bars on here. But if we look at it with candles, you can see these big pump bars that we're getting here, and it's the same thing coming down. We get this huge spike of volume. So what this tells me is that this is a nervous market. It's just, boy, this is, oh, hurry up, I don't want to miss it, and this is, holy shit, it's coming down, get me out. So it's not ideal to see this kind of huge volume spiking up and down. So it just, as I interpret that, it just feels like the market is on edge, and we need a little more trend establishment here, I think, for some of the spiky action to start to calm down a little bit. But volume is a good thing. It can be a good thing if you're bullish here. We do want to see that increase in volume, and we want to see it at technical level. So you can see here. So I'm just going to take this off now. I just want to make that point. Something to keep an eye on. We want steady trend rather than spike, spike, spike. Let's get rid of that here, just because it takes up space. I so wish they could put that underneath in one of the indicators. See, that's so. Wish list for TradingView. Let me put the volume down here so I don't have it on the same chart. All right. So actually here, this is something that I'll look at as well. So this is just a 20-period moving average of the volume, and you get kind of an overbought, oversold kind of a play here. So you can see here this on these big pumps here where we get a bit, theoretically here is the moving average here. We're getting into the overbought zones here, and then you see as we're coming down here, we get into these oversold indicators. Not something I would trade on by itself, but when we look at things, if we're going to take a look at oscillators, you can see a few things here. So we have classic divergence here as we have a lower low in the price, and we don't get that same movement here in, at least in the Elliott oscillator here. So we're getting divergence, classic divergence here, implying strength. You see the same thing here with volume, with the moving average of the volume. We're getting divergence here. So this move up here is, interesting. So let me just pull this off here, and we can put that down underneath. So you can see here, it's, I've got a pitchfork on here that appears to be holding the market. So we can see here this geometry. Now we could, let me just, so we catch all of it. We could get the 200 and may have to get, let's see, 200, get it, may have to get to the 2.5 to get all of it. All right, so we can see here, so we get this all the way up to the 2.5, and actually here on this skinny little wick, we get through that. But from my pivot here, my 3-4, and then what I'm using this pivot here because it's just there's a little bit of trial and error to look for the geometry that's containing the market. And you can see here from this pivot, we're back to tap it. We go through this correction, then we're back again to tap it here, and we've seen this reaction. Now, is that off of the median line touch? Could be, certainly could be. We do have this little issue down here where we have differences between exchanges. So on Bitfinex here, we do not get a new low. On Bitstamp, we did. And so we have this disparity. So I'm inclined to be more conservative, thus not counting this as a 1-2. I think that's a mistake. So because I can get 5 coming down here and I have a good pivot, I think if it breaks on one exchange, we can't make an exception for that. So I'm going to use this as my significant low. So pulling from this low on the assumption that we complete up here and that we've got a completed 1 wave here and that what we've got is an expanded B wave here, taking out the 5-wave high, which is something that Elliott rules will allow for in a B wave, unlike a second wave. So a B wave, we can have an expanded B wave going beyond the wave 1 pivot here. So let me, suppose I should do this here so it's not confusing. So what we're looking for is potentially this as our 2, 3, 4, and 5 are over here. Let me get that. Oh, let's go, we'll do it in green. Let's get it up to a degree that would make sense. So we can go to, that'll work. All right, so if this is our 1, trading, my number 1 gripe with TradingView. Okay, so we get, there's our completed 1, A, B, and then I've got this nice 5 coming down as a potential, right, just that, potential for a second wave here. Now, we know the prime spot for a 2, as I've said in many videos, and in the last Bitcoin video, we were looking for something between the 50 and the 618. Well, we did get this wick through here. You can see bodies hold 618. So we're in the golden zone. We get a little pump down before we get this reaction. So what, is it a bear trap? Could be. Did the market need to tap the median line before moving on? I mean, it's hard to say. All right, so with our Elliott hats on, we can look at this and put a count on it here that makes sense, qualifies. Everything is in sync with Elliott rules and tendencies. We're all good there. So we have to look at that and say, well, we know a second wave can anywhere from the 50 to 786. That's the zone where we'd look to find them. Our prime zone, highest probability between the 50 and the 618. So if you'll recall from the last video I did, we were sitting here at the 50, and there was, the slim chance that we had a 3, 4, 5 and that we were going to pivot at the 50, but I suggested it didn't look complete. So what was more likely is that we'd come up, put in a 4 and come down for a 5. And so whether you saw that video or not, what I was looking for was closer to the 38. We don't get it. We only get to the 23. So weak market, we roll over, we get this last spike down, but we can get 5 out of that. So you say, oh, well, wait a minute, man. What about that thing with the algos? They're flipping, and if they break the 65, well, that's exactly right. So we do have some algo resistance we're going to have to work through on the way back. So staying with that, as I have shown you guys many times. So since we have the break of the 65, whether you use this pivot or this pivot, since we have that break, meaning an algorithm will have flipped. So the next algo play will be here. They're going to run into this resistance at the 50. Now, certainly it can break through. Just because that resistance is there does not mean that it's inevitable that we do this, although that is a potential outcome here. We can't ignore that. As the algos that will have flipped with that break of the 65, you can anticipate a reaction here at the 50. Now, is it enough of a reaction and enough selling pressure to drive the market back down here to revisit this area of lows? Well, so look at it, right? So that would technically not invalidate this count as a 1-2. We'd have to recount all of this. We might be rethinking it, might be rethinking some of this. But right now, I'm getting ahead of myself. We haven't done that yet. So first thing, we got to see what happens here. We could hit the 50 here. We could this is what we need to get through. That's the, 65.82. We need to get through that. So upon getting through that, then we have the algos on our side. So assuming you're a bull. So if we get through here, then it's the next 50 that will be the trade, right? Then you've got the benefit of getting algos behind or us getting behind them, more likely. So we want to get behind them and try and get behind what they're doing last. So if we can break this, we reach that point here where we won't have a competing algorithm that we'll have to deal with in terms of that selling pressure on the way up. Now that's on the first set of pivots here. As we approach these other pivots, there will be additional resistance points that we'll need to deal with. But right now, we're just trying to dig out of the hole down here at what's our low here, 57.52. So we're trying to get some distance from these lows to validate the potential that we have a good pivot down here, to validate this pivot as well as these two as potential turning points in the start of a new trend. Now, way too soon to be assuming that. So what can we say with clarity? Well, we have a technical pivot down here. So this interesting, right? So that we pivot right here at the median line. We're not to the tick, but we're awfully close. And we know from one of Andrew's trading principles that if it's not to the tick, it'll be very close. So we get the spike. Now, Elliott hat's on. We know we're certainly in prime spot for our second wave. Now, what do we need? We need to come out of here with a motive wave. A good solid, not like maybe if I squeeze, if I go down. I need a good solid motive wave coming out of here. It can be a diagonal, no problem. Can be an impulse, just fine. Just need to see 5. I need 5, and I need distance from both this pivot and this pivot. So in effect, what we're looking for is a series of higher highs, right? Oh, pardon me, higher lows in this case. So here's our first low. Here we're going to call this a double bottom, since it's double bottoming on other exchanges. We need this series here now. We need a higher low from this, which would be a higher low from this, right? We need that series to get underway, and we need to get through this resistance, which is not going to be insignificant. There will be software written to sell that, and you can look for that reaction just working from swing high to swing low on the assumption that this is our current swing low. So we're going to have to get up here without this rolling over here and just heading us back down here to get this. Right, we just saw that happen. We got to a 38 and then we turned. Now, if we break this down here, all we're trying to do is say, do I have a good pivot here? Well, let's go down. I'm going to go for the 1 hour down to the 15 minute, see if I can build a case for it. So here's my 15 minute. I'm here. It's on Bitfinex. So looking here, again, I'm resisting the temptation to go 1-2, even though this didn't overlap here. So I'm working from this pivot low here at 57.75. So allowing for that 1, right? And I've broken this down enough times. I don't think we need to do that again. So for the bull count here, so we can take our Gann angle off here. If I open this up now, so here's the count that at this point, it plays. So we get an A. Then I get an A, B. I get a 3 wave. I get this expansion here in the B, right? Allowing for the expanded B wave. And then I come down in 5. And the reason I'm leaning into this expanded B wave is because of the 5 I get here coming down. Now, I'm using different pivots for this set of median lines. And you can see here now that as we come down, we hover around the median line. We break. We're getting to the 0.5 here. And then we're coming back and we're hovering. Now, this has been sort of a pattern with Bitcoin. So look what we're doing here. This is so you see, look at the similarities here. This is why we don't want this. We need traction here. So we've had the impulsive move and we're getting the sideways consolidation, much as we've seen in prior moves. You can see it here to some case where we had the big pump and then we went sideways to lower. We had a break from that. Then we get it again. Then is it real? Are we holding? We're just going sideways. Same thing here. We get the big pump, and then we effectively just go sideways. Then we're in this sideways consolidation as people are digesting. Is it real? Is it good? Can we test it? Can we trade it sideways? We get the little pump up before we rip down. So just just a classic bull trap. So up they go, people get excited, they start buying, and then look at the reaction. So we're seeing that, and then yet again, we saw it here as we went sideways before this last drop. So this seems to be a consistent pattern with Bitcoin. It's spike up, big volume, move sideways. Can we digest it? Can we accept it, right? Do we have price acceptance here? So note here the volume spike. Now, what that's telling you is that at this point, we have market acceptance. So we're seeing buying and selling. Transactions are happening here as we see this increase in volume. Now, next up, we got to get through the point of control, at least as it relates to what's visible here, which would include swing low to swing high. So here's our point of control. The most trading volume, you can see why. Right? You see that right along here. We had all this chop here, all this chop here. There's the break. Come back. Now we're back into this. So yet again, we're doing this sideways pattern here. So we need to come out of that with some velocity if we're going to get out of it. Otherwise, the likely pattern has been, if it can't hold, it breaks down. So we need to break this pattern. Now, so from here, we need something like this. All right, but so the retrace is inevitable. I'm not saying don't anticipate a retracement, but it needs to take some shape other than pump, sideways, sell off. Pump, sideways, sell off. We don't know what's happening here. Sell off. Pump, sideways. Now we need to break up if we're going to get some traction out of this hole. All right, so having kind of walked you through that, let's just take a quick glance at the Elliott count here. Let me get this stuff off of here. Yeah. So bear with me just a sec. All right, so as we come down here, so this is actually remarkably technical. So if I look here and we dig into this, so let me squeeze back just a little bit. All right, so here's actually on this, I'm going to go to candles because it's just easier to get these pivots. All right, so 1, 2, 3, A, B, C into my 4. And what's giving me a little more confidence in this pivot is that even down here on the 15-minute, I've come down in a 5-wave structure. So I've got a good 4, 5 to give me initial confidence in that pivot. So if I open this up here so you can really see this, we get a nice 1, 2, 3, 4. So look here. So if I pull from my 2 to my 3, right, here's my 4 in between the 23 and the 38, and we're just shy. We're just getting just a little shy of that algo target. Let me get it right on there. So algo target is 60-70, and our low is 60-80. So that's a 10-point pivot. So likely that's a front run, on that target. So from here, so look what's happening here on the 15 minutes, and we run into the Vegas wave. This is we've done previously. Right, just bumping into the Vegas wave. Now, first test, we got to get through this 618. Look what just happened here. We went into. That's a tight little pocket right there. We went right into the golden zone, and then we've had a little pushback. Right, so we've had a reaction. Right, so pivot. Right, so we come here. Now we start checking the pivots. We got to go back one. Are we through? So working from the 4. So this is the highest pivot on this time frame before we go down. So swing high, swing low into the golden zone. We tap the 233. It feels like it's like when I see this, it makes me think of the Roadrunner cartoon. That's the Wile E. Coyote running off the cliff with his feet still running. Hopefully it's not, he realizes there's no cliff and he's falling down. So hopefully we're looking for traction to get out of this congestion, but that has not been the pattern. So we have now all of the ingredients here for a completed correction, albeit, I wouldn't call this unconventional. Expanded B is not uncommon, but it's not traditional. So if you were going to script out the perfect correction for Bitcoin, you wouldn't have an expanded B, but yet there it is. And what we've seen from Bitcoin is this difficulty in getting a new trend started. So we get the pump, and it looks like maybe we're getting going, and then we get into these difficult second waves. So first up here, you can see they may try it again here, even while I'm recording this, trying to get through these levels of resistance. The big one being all the way back up to this high. We got to get through this 65, which is 65.82-ish. We'll call that. So, but this is not unreasonable to think that we've got an ABC coming into a 2. Time will tell here, but we need. So if I were down on a 5-minute, I can probably get a 1, 2, 3 going sideways, characteristic of a 4th. Now we need to resolve out of this to the upside, assuming you're a bull. So there you go. That's let's go. I'm going to just take this back to the hourly and just do a little bit of additional upside here. So let's think about some targets here. So if we're down here and if this is going to play as our 2 here in green, all right, so what are we looking for 3, 4, and 5? Let's get a roadmap put together here and see if we can get there. So let's get all this stuff off to the side. All right, so I can put, now that I've shown you this, let's clear this up a little bit. Okay, so if that's, let's just do some simple fib projections, right? Just taking the low here to my potential wave 1 high, right? I'm not using the all the way pivot. I'm using, this is with Elliott in mind. Here's my 2. All right, so here's my high probability zone for my 3rd if we're going to get an Elliott wave out of this. So can we go 1, 2, 3? Well, of course. First thing, let's get a pitchfork on it. All right, can we set up for a potential corner pocket here? Now that's probably a little more than we need on that. So let's get rid of the 2.5 and the 2. Oh, we can leave. We can even get rid of the 1.5. All right, so there we have it. All right, so let's scrunch this back up and say, okay, we have a candidate here. Let me get these. Sorry, guys, you got to get these right on. Right, it's a little bit of an annoying thing you got to deal with when you change time frames. Okay, so there we go, right on them. All right, so there it is. So here's our destination. That's what we're hoping to get to for our 3rd wave. Some of that can go up. Right, and we're making a projection on time. We don't know how that's going to play, but we have the ingredients here for a corner pocket. All right, so the idea being, all right, and I've told you this, shown this, I don't know how many dozens of times. If this low holds, right, trading principle number 1, we have an 80% probability of making this median line. Now, there's nothing about the timing. Now, we could go straight here and make it 80% fulfilled. We could get it right here at the 100%, qualifying this as a potential 3rd wave, breaking 100% the length of the 1 wave, which we would do here. We could do it up here, which would be ideal, right? So we'd catch the 1618 for the 3rd. That puts us back up at 7728. So that's a contender. Now we know for sure it's not going to go straight, right? So something like this might be what we'd be anticipating. Put it in a little more. All right, it's not going to be stick figure perfect. It never is. So if you're looking at that, so one thought is, well, if you didn't buy that, if you didn't catch this first little bump, right, do you chase it here? You could. We don't have a lot of distance here, so a stop under the pivot here, that's 60.59, then we're at 255, $250 stop. Not outrageous. The other thought is you go back to the 15-minute and you wait for the first little retrace, right? So if we're going to come up, if we're going to finish this as a 5 down on that degree, then so if that's a 5, then we get a 1 and a potential 2. So if you're not already long, the safer play, rather than try and chase it here, is let it complete, let it reveal itself here. Do we have a motive wave? Then wait for the 2nd wave down, because this would just be this would all be in the context of something like this, right? So this would just be the 1 wave of the 3rd wave if we're going to get something like that. And we don't know, do we get impulse? Do we get diagonal? We don't know. We just want to get 5. So if this is going to be 1, then we would just be taking the 2, looking for the 3, and right, we do the same projection here on that smaller degree. Can we get a 1, 2 and be on board for the 2, 3? Now, nothing says that you have to get out here. All right, so if you were a buyer here, if we did a 50 or a 618, call it 6,200 up to 6,580. Nothing says you have to get out there, but if we're going to continue to move into a new trend, which we're far from ready to declare that, but we do have the potential for it. So if we're going to get into a 5 and come down for a 2, then a move here to the 3 or the likely or to the 1618, right? Same target, same relationship we'd be looking for on the lower degree, on the 15-minute. Well, maybe you take a partial there, let the 4 come in, and you trade the 4 into the 5. Well, if that completes, then all we're doing, right? You guys know how this goes. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So something like that kicks in, and let's go back down here so you get the idea here. So we'd have something like that. So this would just be the 1 wave of the 3rd wave here in green. So 1, we come down for the 2. So if you don't catch any of this, well, fear not, because you still have the opportunity to catch this, right, between the 50 and the 618 for this 2 wave. What do we look for? We want to see it come down in 3. All right, so this kind of falls down here, and then you're looking to catch this. Well, in this case, it would be here, right? Because we'd be looking for the 4, 5. We'd be looking for this, down for the 4, up for the 5. Now we have it completing on multiple degrees. So do you see the idea here? It's always waves within waves within waves. Just like from this 4 here, we get 5 in this 5. From this 4 here, we're looking for 5 in that 5. From this 4 here, we're looking for the same thing here. It's the fractal nature of Elliott wave. When it's in play and it's rolling, you can't miss it. Right now, doesn't mean it's going to be easy. This doesn't mean it's not going to take some nuance, some skills, some sense of what these wave structures look like, where these relationships are, where the probabilities are. Right? That's well, you can start. That's something we can teach you. You can probably do your own research there, but if not, we're a good source to teach that to you. So I just don't feel like, oh shit, Bitcoin's starting to move. Don't fall into that. There's always a retracement. There will be a retracement. You want to wait for it to complete a one wave on the 1 hour? No problem, because the 2 will come. If we're going to go up here into an impulse. Because if this is 1, 2, this third here in green has to be impulsive. No way around it. Now, the 1 waves don't have to be impulsive. We can have leading diagonals in the 1 wave, and in the 5th wave, we can have an ending diagonal. But in that 3rd wave, I got to have an impulse. So as I relate from the 2 low here to my potential, just the potential roadmap here, to this 3rd, within this, I've got to be able to count that as an impulse, and within this 3rd, I've got to be able to get an impulse out of that. Right, so there's plenty to work with here. So we're not ready to declare the low is in, but yet again we have the ingredients for it. This is what they look like as they start to turn. So this would be an important pivot. Right? We absolutely, if you're a bull, we want to see this hold. We want to see that pivot hold and this corner pocket be fully realized. Now it's not golden. Right? We know, we've looked at this. It's not a golden corner pocket. It's close, but it's not golden. We're not into the golden zone. We've gone slightly through it before we move ahead. So we get a straight corner pocket, but we are certainly in the zone of what we would be anticipating for a second wave here in green. So there's our 1, 2. Potentially 1, 2 is in. Now, a lot has to go right. A lot has to happen here for us to get more confidence in that pivot. But if you're long off of that pivot, your stop needs, well, let me tell you, say it this way. This is where my stop would be. All right, now, I did not buy this here. Did not. I am very long Bitcoin, but I did not buy this pivot here. Right? I may take a long, hard look at this if I get a decent 3-wave subdivision down on the 15-minute. Right, and these are all potential places to add should we start to move further and further from this low area, from this double bottom down here, giving confidence to this pivot, giving confidence to ultimately reaching that median line. So up here would be the target, 77.88. So if you're looking to get in and looking for ultimate targets, that's a reasonable place to be looking. And then you think about all of the resistance we're going to need to get through. And I'll finish with this as I get back here. All right, so we got a lot of pivots of resistance to work through. So even just this one here, this will be a clear standout. All right, we got to get through that. Then we got to get through this one, right? As algos will be kicking in all the way, including this one. So that's the big kahuna right there. We got to get on the other side of, what do we got there? That's 85.69. That's the big one that we got to get through. Once we get through that, then we're going to be looking a lot better for all of this to have been realized as our hard low as we move into a new trend. So we're not there yet, but we do have a good start on it. We'll see how it resolves. All right, guys. So with that, let's see how oh man, it ran long. Okay, so just a reminder, just check under the video. You'll find that link for that contest where you can win those prizes and that free memberships. Follow us on Twitter. We really like to hear from you. We really engage with you over there. So that's a place to connect with us and get feedback from us. And that's if you want to reach us, that's usually the best way to do it. I appreciate all the subscribers here on YouTube. I hope you find value here. And we'd love to see you over on the Discord, whether it's the public Discord, which is free, or as a new member. All right, guys, with that, I will wrap it and wish you all a good weekend and good luck in the contest.